Karen slaps my kid, then calls the cops on me. I'm still angry just thinking about what happened, but at least justice was served in the end. This all went down about 6 months ago, and I've been waiting to share until everything was fully resolved. Some background. My wife and I live in a nice suburban neighborhood with our 8-year-old son. We've been here for about 5 years, and until recently it was a pretty peaceful place. That all changed when Karen, not her real name obviously, moved in next door about a year ago. From day one, something seemed off about her. She was one of those people who acted sugary sweet to your face while clearly judging everything about you. Within a week of moving in, she'd already complained to us about our son playing basketball in our driveway. The noise is giving me migraines. Our garden, those vegetables are attracting bugs to my yard, and even the color we'd painted our front door, it's lowering property values. We tried to be good neighbors and accommodate her reasonable requests, like not letting our son practice basketball too early in the morning. But nothing was ever good enough for Karen. She'd find something new to complain about every week. Still, we kept things civil and just tried to avoid her as much as possible. That strategy worked fine until about 6 months ago, when everything went completely off the rails. It was a Saturday afternoon, and my son was playing in our front yard with his remote control car, a birthday present he'd gotten the week before. He was having a blast driving it around on our driveway, keeping well away from Karen's property. I was in the garage organizing some tools, but keeping an eye on him through the open door. That's when I heard Karen's front door slam. I looked up to see her storming across her lawn toward my son, face already red with anger. "Hey," she yelled, "that thing is way too loud. Turn it off right now." My son, being a well-mannered kid, stopped the car and looked up at her. "I'm sorry, I didn't think it was that loud. I can move further away if you want." "No, I want you to stop playing with that stupid toy completely. Some of us are trying to have a peaceful weekend." I started walking toward them, not liking her tone at all. Before I could get there, my son tried one more time to be reasonable. "But I'm only playing on our driveway," he said. "And it's not even that loud." That's when it happened. Karen completely lost it. She reached down, snatched up his RC car, and threw it as hard as she could onto our concrete driveway. The car shattered into pieces, sending parts skittering everywhere. My son stood there in shock, starting to cry. "There," Karen screamed. "Now it won't make any more noise." I started running toward them, but I was still too far away when Karen did the unthinkable. As my son bent down to pick up pieces of his broken toy, she actually slapped him across the face, hard enough to knock him off balance. I saw red. I sprinted the rest of the way, putting myself between Karen and my son. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" I roared. "Don't you ever touch my child." Karen immediately switched to victim mode, backing away with her hands up. "He attacked me," she shrieked. "I was just defending myself. He tried to hit me with that car." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "He did no such thing, and you know it. You just assaulted a child in front of witnesses." "Witnesses?" She looked around frantically. "I don't see any witnesses, but I'm calling the police right now because your violent son attacked me." She pulled out her phone and started dialing, turning on the waterworks as she did. I helped my son up, checking his face where she'd hit him. There was already a red mark forming. "Go inside and get Mom," I told him quietly. "Tell her what happened and stay in the house." He nodded and ran inside while I turned back to Karen, who was now crying dramatically into her phone. "Yes, officer, please hurry. My neighbor's son just attacked me, and now his father is threatening me. I'm so scared." I almost laughed at the absurdity of it. Almost. But then I remembered something that made me smile for real. Our security cameras. We'd installed a comprehensive system last year after some car break-ins in the neighborhood. Every inch of our front yard was covered, including multiple angles of the driveway where this had all gone down. I pulled out my own phone and called the police myself, not trusting Karen to give them an accurate description of events. While I waited for them to answer, I could hear Karen still spinning her tale of victimhood. "Yes, the boy tried to hit me with his toy car, and when I defended myself, his father came charging at me like a madman. Please send someone quickly." The dispatcher picked up my call, and I calmly explained that my neighbor had just assaulted my 8-year-old son, destroyed his property, and was now making false police reports. I gave them our address and mentioned we had everything on video. My wife came out just then, our son behind her. She took one look at his face and the broken toy, then turned to Karen with a look that would have melted steel. "You hit my child?" she asked in a deadly quiet voice. Karen backed up a few steps, still on the phone. "They're threatening me again. Please hurry." It only took about 5 minutes for 2 police cars to arrive, lights flashing. Karen immediately ran to the first officer, crying and pointing at us. "Thank goodness you're here. These people are dangerous. The boy attacked me with his toy, and when I defended myself, they all started threatening me." The officer held up his hand to stop her and walked over to us. "Sir, can you tell me what happened here?" I nodded. My son was playing with his RC car in our driveway. This woman, I pointed to Karen, came over and started yelling at him about the noise. When he tried to explain he was just playing, she grabbed his toy, destroyed it, and then slapped him across the face. "We have it all on security cameras." "He's lying," Karen shrieked. "Check my Ring doorbell camera. It will show the truth." The officer looked at her. "Ma'am, your Ring camera is pointing at your front door. It wouldn't have captured anything that happened over here." "Sir, you said you have video?" I nodded again. "Multiple angles. Would you like to see it now?" "Yes, please." I pulled up the security app on my phone and showed him the footage. It was crystal clear, Karen storming over, destroying the toy, and slapping my son. The audio even picked up her false accusations afterward. The officer watched it twice, then showed it to his partner. They had a quiet discussion while Karen kept trying to interrupt with her version of events. Finally, the first officer turned to Karen. "Ma'am, please put your hands behind your back. You're under arrest for assault of a minor, destruction of property, and filing a false police report." Karen's face went from fake tears to rage in an instant. "What? You can't arrest me. I'm the victim here. That video is fake." As the officer started reading her rights, she tried to run back to her house. She didn't get far before the second officer caught up with her. They had to practically carry her to the patrol car as she kicked and screamed about how we'd set her up and would pay for this. After they got her secured in the car, the officers took our statements and documented my son's injury. They asked if we wanted to press charges. My wife and I exchanged a look and nodded simultaneously. Absolutely we did. "We'll need a copy of that security footage," the officer said, "and you might want to get a restraining order." I sent them the video right there and asked what would happen next. They explained Karen would be booked and would probably be out on bail pretty quickly, but she'd be ordered to stay away from us pending trial. Sure enough, Karen was back home that evening. She spent the next few hours standing in her front window, glaring at our house and talking animatedly on her phone. We kept our son inside and documented every time we saw her watching us. The next morning, we got a visit from a woman introducing herself as Karen's sister. She tried to convince us to drop the charges, saying Karen was going through a difficult time and didn't mean to hurt anyone. "She assaulted our child," my wife said firmly. "She's lucky we're only pressing charges and not suing her personally. Please leave our property." The sister started arguing, but I just pointed to our security cameras and reminded her about trespassing laws. She left in a huff. That afternoon, we met with a lawyer to file for a restraining order. He watched the security footage and assured us it would be granted easily. He also suggested we sue Karen civilly for the destroyed RC car and emotional distress. "With this video evidence, it's an open and shut case," he said. "She'll probably try to settle quickly to avoid the publicity." He was right about the restraining order. It was granted within days. Karen was ordered to stay at least 100 feet away from all of us, especially our son. She was also banned from any direct contact. That didn't stop her from trying to make our lives difficult, though. She started calling codeinfor.c.ement about every little thing she could think of. Our grass was too long, it wasn't. Our trash cans were in the wrong spot, they weren't. We were violating noise ordinances, we weren't. Each time the inspectors would come out, find nothing wrong and leave. We made sure to show them the security footage of Karen's assault so they'd understand what was really going on. Most of them were sympathetic and started marking her complaints as harassment. The criminal case moved slowly, as these things do. Karen hired an expensive lawyer who tried to argue that the security video had been altered. They brought in some expert who claimed he could see evidence of tampering. Our lawyer just smiled and presented the raw footage, along with complete documentation of our security system's chain of custody and timestamps. Their expert was for .c.ed to admit he had no actual evidence of tampering. Karen's lawyer then tried to argue she had acted in self-defense because she was afraid of my son. The prosecutor actually laughed out loud at that one. Your client, a grown woman, was afraid of an 8-year-old playing with a toy car? So afraid that she had to approach him, destroy his property, and strike him? Would you like to try another defense? They eventually offered a plea deal. Karen would plead guilty to assault and destruction of property, and in exchange, they'd drop the false report charge. She'd have to pay a fine, do community service, and attend anger management classes. After discussing it with our lawyer, we agreed to accept the deal on one condition. Karen would have to publicly apologize to our son and pay for a replacement RC car. Her lawyer argued against it, but Karen surprisingly agreed. I think she just wanted it all to be over. The apology was scheduled for last week at the courthouse. Karen stood up in front of the judge, my family, and several court officers. She looked different, more subdued than I'd ever seen her. I want to apologize, she said stiffly. My behavior was inappropriate and inexcusable. I should never have destroyed your toy or hit you. I'm sorry for lying about what happened and for trying to get your parents in trouble. I will pay for a new RC car and promise to leave your family alone. It wasn't the most sincere apology I've ever heard, but my son accepted it gracefully. He's a better person than me, I guess. Karen paid for a replacement RC car, a much nicer one than the original, at our lawyer's insistence. The judge made it clear that any violation of the restraining order would result in jail time. We haven't had any direct problems with Karen since then, though she still glares at us through her windows sometimes. We heard through neighborhood gossip that she's trying to sell her house, which would be the best outcome for everyone. My son is doing okay now. He was nervous about playing outside for a while, but he's gradually getting more comfortable again. We've used this as a teaching opportunity about standing up to bullies and the importance of always telling the truth. The security cameras that caught everything are still up and running. I've added a few more just to be safe. You never know when you might need that kind of evidence. It's sad that we have to live this way because of one unstable person, but at least we're protected. I still can't believe someone would hit a child over a toy car. The entitlement and rage issues some people have are just mind-boggling. But at least in this case, justice was served. Karen learned the hard way that you can't just assault people and lie about it when there are cameras everywhere. The best part? My son's new RC car is completely silent. It's one of those high-end models with special quiet motors. He loves to drive it around the driveway, and there's nothing Karen can do about it. Sometimes karma works in mysterious ways. Update. It's been 6 months since my original post, and wow, has a lot happened. I wanted to wait until everything was fully resolved before posting this update, and I'm glad I did because the karma train wasn't finished with Karen yet. First off, thank you to everyone who sent supportive messages about my son. He's doing great now. The whole experience actually helped him develop more confidence. When his school did a project on standing up to bullies, he shared his story with our permission and got a standing ovation from his class. His teacher even asked if she could use our security camera footage, with faces blurred, for the school's anti-bullying program. Now, on to the juicy updates about Karen. Remember how I mentioned she was trying to sell her house? Well, that turned into quite a saga. She listed it way above market value, claiming it was a premium property in an exclusive neighborhood. But apparently, she forgot about one tiny detail. In our state, you have to disclose any criminal convictions to potential buyers if they occurred on the property. Her fancy real estate agent didn't know about the assault conviction and had already shown the house to several potential buyers. One couple was actually about to make an offer when they found out about Karen's violent history. Turns out their agent did a background check and found the court records. They backed out immediately. The real estate agent was furious about not being told this crucial information. She dropped Karen as a client and reported her to the State Real Estate Commission for failing to disclose material facts about the property. Karen had to relist with a discount broker and drop her asking price by almost $100K. But it gets better. Remember those anger management classes she was ordered to attend? Well, my wife's cousin works as an administrator at the counseling center. Small world, right? She couldn't tell us specifics due to confidentiality, but she did mention that Karen got kicked out of 2 different group sessions for disruptive behavior and had to take private classes at triple the cost. The community service was another disaster. Karen got assigned to work at the local animal shelter, probably because they thought it would be safe to put her with animals instead of people. Nope, after just 2 days, she got banned for yelling at people who wanted to adopt older dogs instead of puppies. She had to complete her hours picking up trash on the highway instead. About 3 months ago, Karen finally found a buyer for her house at $150K below her original asking price. The day the moving truck showed up, we had a little celebration cookout in our backyard. Petty? Maybe. But after everything she put us through, we deserved to enjoy the moment. Here's where karma really kicked in though. As the movers were loading up her furniture, one of them accidentally dropped her antique dining room table. It turned out the table wasn't actually antique at all. It was a cheap reproduction she'd been bragging about as a family heirloom worth thousands. The mover apologized and offered to pay for repairs, but Karen completely lost it. She started screaming at the poor guy, calling him every name in the book. Then she made the mistake of trying to slap him, just like she did to my son. But unlike my son, this guy was a former boxer who did moving work to stay in shape. He dodged her slap easily, and Karen lost her balance, falling face first into her own rose bushes. The entire moving crew quit on the spot. They unloaded everything back into her house and left, saying they wouldn't work with abusive clients. Karen had to scramble to find another moving company on short notice, which cost her triple the original rate. The new buyers, watching all this drama unfold, tried to back out of the deal. Karen had to give them another $20K off the price to save the sale. We actually felt kind of bad for them until we found out they're planning to rent the house to their lovely elderly parents who love gardening and kids. But wait, there's more. Remember Karen's sister who tried to get us to drop the charges? She showed up again last week, but not to cause trouble. She came to apologize to us. "I'm so sorry I defended her behavior," she said. "I knew Karen had issues, but I always made excuses for her. After seeing how she acted during this whole process, I realized I was enabling her. She's burned bridges with our entire family now." She told us Karen had moved to a condo in Florida. Of course, it's Florida. Apparently, she's already getting into fights with her new neighbors about their noisy palm trees. Some people never learn. As for my son, he's become quite the RC car enthusiast. That replacement car Karen had to buy him got him interested in the hobby, and he's now part of a local RC racing club. He won his first junior competition last month. We made sure to send Karen a thank you card with a photo of him holding his trophy. Petty, yes? Satisfying? Absolutely. The security cameras that caught everything are still up, but we've actually made them part of a complete smart home system now. We added some features like automated lights and a video doorbell. Other neighbors have asked us for advice about setting up their own systems. It's brought the community together in an unexpected way. One of the police officers who responded that day recently stopped by to check on us. He told us our case has become a training example at the department for how video evidence can quickly resolve disputes. They've actually started advising more homeowners to install security cameras. Karen's old house is being completely renovated by the new owner's parents. They've turned her pretentious rose garden into a beautiful vegetable patch and invited neighborhood kids to help them plant things. My son goes over there twice a week to help water the plants and learn about gardening. It's like the universe is slowly erasing every trace of Karen's negativity. We've also become closer with other neighbors we didn't know well before. The whole incident showed us who our real friends were. Several people provided statements to the police about Karen's previous aggressive behavior, which helped establish a pattern for the court case. Last week we hosted a neighborhood block party, something Karen had always complained about and prevented. Nearly everyone came, including people from 3 streets over. The kids played games on our front lawn, someone brought a karaoke machine, and we all shared stories about our favorite Karen moments. It turned into a sort of community healing event. My son still plays with his RC car in the driveway, but now other neighborhood kids join him. They've formed a little informal racing club and set up obstacle courses. Sometimes I hear them laughing and having fun and think about how Karen's attempt to silence one child's joy led to even more children playing and being happy in the exact spot she tried to control. We did learn one final amusing detail about Karen's Florida move. She apparently tried to join the condo board her first week there, running on a platform of strict noise control and property value protection. She got exactly 2 votes, her own and one from someone who accidentally checked the wrong box. The karma train just keeps rolling. Last we heard, she's already had 3 noise complaints filed against her for screaming at kids in the condo complex pool. Hopefully, their security cameras are as good as ours. They say the best revenge is living well. In our case, that's absolutely true. Our neighborhood is more friendly and connected than ever. My son has a new hobby he loves and more friends to share it with. The new neighbors are wonderful additions to the community. Even our property value has gone up since Karen left. Turns out having a convicted child abuser next door was the real thing bringing it down. As I write this final update, I can look out my window and see my son teaching the new neighbor's grandkids how to drive RC cars. They're laughing and having a blast, and there's no one around to scream at them about the noise. Life is good. Oh, and one final bit of karma. Remember that expert Karen's lawyer hired to claim our video was fake? Turns out he wasn't actually qualified to analyze video evidence. The state board that certifies technical experts is investigating him now. Karen's lawyer had to report himself to the Bar Association for presenting an unqualified expert witness. The hits just keep coming. I guess the moral of this story is, don't hit kids, don't lie about hitting kids, and definitely don't do either of those things when there are security cameras around. Also, maybe don't move to Florida if you hate noise. I hear they have these things called birds there that make all kinds of sounds. Thanks for all the support, everyone. If there are any more dramatic updates, I'll be sure to share them. But for now, we're just enjoying our peaceful, Karen-free life. Sometimes the trash really does take itself out. The next one is titled, Don't Mess with My Brother. My 44F, brother 47M, have been close my whole life. I almost died when I was very young from pneumonia, and he was just old enough to remember the experience. This made him very protective of me. Well, around puberty he kind of stopped hanging out with me. I found out later it was because his hockey teammates were starting to eyeball me and he wasn't having it. I grew up with his hockey teams. Went to school with some of his teammates. In like 1995, he got his first serious girlfriend, who happened to be on my hockey team. One night, after a tournament my brother's team had won, the team came to my parents' house to celebrate. My brother got a hold of a bottle and got crazy drunk and started crying. I'd never seen him cry before, so I did some investigating. Turns out this girl broke his heart. There was a bag with all his stuff from her house and his class ring chilling on his dresser. Fuck this shit, she's gotta pay. Turns out, our grandma was a bit of a dumpster diver and gave us about 100 rolls of 1-ply toilet paper. So the team and I came up with a plan. Our mom happily gave us the supply of TP, and off we went into the night after he passed out. Said woman lived on a wooded lot with tons of motion sensor lights. We empty all 100 rolls. Make my brother cry, you're gonna pay. Didn't get caught, and it rained the next morning. A couple weeks later at practice, she came up to me and apologized for hurting him. I did something relatively similar to his first wife. Waited for the papers to be signed, and me and my boys went into action. Again, hurt my brother and you're going to have an awful mess in the morning. I work nights. I'm awake while you sleep.